when you have somebody new come on board within your office, whether it's a broker or it's somebody doing something different, somebody in marketing or an admin or transaction coordinator, researcher, whatever it is, whatever role they have, when you're setting up their contact record, they're very specific. There are a few specific things that you need to do. Otherwise, it's going to prevent you from doing other stuff further down the road within the system. So the first thing when someone new comes on board is to create their contact record. You cannot create a login and password for them until they have a contact record set up in the system. That's going to be your very first step, is creating that contact record for the new user. Now, if I come in here and I hover over contacts, I click on the contacts link, I can do a search for an existing person in my office. If you have multiple locations, find somebody in the location that the new person is going to be working out of. The idea there is when you find the person that you want, you can put your mouse on or near the little blue arrow to the left of the record and copy it. Now, when you copy it, it's going to make an exact copy. So at this point, you're going to change first name, the last name, the title. So this is our Joe Broker, and we'll say he's an agent. And we're going to come down here, and you can obviously change phone numbers to whatever they need to be, and change the email address. Okay? But because you copied it, all of the other information is going to be the same. Okay? Now, here's where, under contact settings, this is where you are going to make the distinction between internal and external. And if you're ever unsure about that distinction, internal means they work at your office. External means they don't. It does not matter what office they work in. If it is not your specific office or an office that that your company owns, then they're an external person. It could be another Lee office, but if it's not your Lee office, they're external. This right here is an important, very important trigger. Okay? And I'm going to explain or show you why in just a second. But I wanted to point this out, that only an administrator in the system has the ability to create internal contacts. If a normal user goes in and creates a contact record, when they go to this pull down, they have one option. That's it, external. That's the only option that they have. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to leave it at external. And I'm going to come down here, and I'm just going to hit finish. Because I want you to see something. Okay. Now, this is the contact record that we just created. Okay? And I think they might have resolved, sorry, side note, I think they might have resolved that issue. They're going to be testing it right now, and I can't test it because I'm on with you guys. So I'll keep you posted as soon as I get notification that it is done. All right, so this is my contact record. If you notice, because I made a copy, it even copied the image, which clearly is not Joe Broker. However, it made the copy. Now, do you see how where my mouse is, the blue menu bar of the record, it ends at groups. That's as far as it goes. Well, watch. When I edit this record, and I go to contact settings, and I change this to internal, Do you see how now there's an admin link that was not there before? You will only see this admin link on internal contacts. Now, there are a couple different choices of things to choose from in here. You can set the business lines and locations right here. However, I'm going to recommend that you do it when you create their login and password. You'll have the ability to do it then as well. If you make a copy of it, it's not going to copy the business lines or locations, okay, when you copy the record. So it is something that you do need to add to all of them. However, the one thing that you have to do within the contact record, and this is really important, especially for your agents, is the contact bio. This is the information that will show up on the Lee & Associates public website. The information that you put in the bio, the career history, the education, all of these little memo boxes, which, by the way, if you're using it in Google Chrome, you can open these up if you want. Internet Explorer doesn't let you open them. That's just a function of the browser, not the software. But I just wanted to point out that these are going to show up on the website, including the specialties. If you want to add a resume for that person, you can. If you just want a hard copy, a PDF of their resume, and then, of course, display the cell number or subscribe on the profile. This is where you're going to enter in all that information, which will transfer to the website. Now, here's the thing, though. Just putting the information in, making the contact record internal and putting the information in is not going to put it up on the website. I'm going to edit the record again in the colored ribbon at the top and go back to my contact settings. This is where you found the internal and external. This right here is the trigger that puts it on the website or doesn't. So just because you make the record internal and you enter that information, it is not going to show up on the website. You have to change this to yes. Then hit finish. Now, if we don't do anything else, this record will show up on the website at midnight Pacific time. Without doing anything else other than what we just did, you know, you enter in the bio, you enter the contact, you enter in the bio, that's going to show up on the Lee & Associates website at midnight. However, if you do not want to wait until midnight, there's a trigger, there's something that you can do that puts it up on the website right away. I'm going to go to, you know, and it's not on. The trigger, it's not on the demo site that I'm on, so I just want to show you what that is. This right here, publish to corporate. I've had quite a few people, and looking at the list of names, most of you are, a lot of you on this call are seasoned, so you already know this, but for those of you that don't, I've been getting some emails, you know, I put a new listing on the website, or I edited a listing, or I added a new person, but they're not showing up. I marked them published to web. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. You didn't do anything wrong, but it's going to go up at midnight if you don't do anything other than create the records and publish it to the web. This publishes it right away. If you don't want to wait until midnight, push this button, and it'll sync with the corporate site, which is what powers the website. Okay? Sometimes the sync takes a little bit longer. It may take a minute or two. My recommendation, push the button, go grab a cup of coffee, use the washroom or something like that, and when you come back, it'll be done. Even if it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to wait, or let's say even 5 minutes, which is, I don't think it really ever takes that long, but even if it takes 5 minutes, at least it's up on the website in 5 minutes and not making you wait until midnight that night. And it really, the length of time depends on how busy the server is and how much information you're pushing up to the web. But I just wanted to point that out because I still continue to get emails or messages from people saying, I marked it published to web, but it's still not showing up. It's because of this right here. If you don't do anything though, if you forget to do this or you forget, what was he talking about? I don't remember that button he was talking about on the widget. If you forget, it will go up. You just have to wait until that evening. Okay? And this is just a widget that you add to your dashboard, the same as you would add to any other widget. They're in alphabetical order. So it's going to be under, you know, page 6. Right there, published to corporate. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Okay, so I went back to, now we're back to our contact record, Joe Broker. We made him internal, we marked him published to web, we added all the bio information to this person. We got their record completely set up exactly the way we want it. We had their picture in, we got it set up the way we want it. Now we need to give access to that person. I'm going to go to my main screen, the main menu bar, hover over admin and click on the word logins. This will load a list of all of the current logins in the system. There is a refined search. In this case, there are 8 pages worth. If you want to search and find somebody, you could just refine your search. Search for the person or search for the login name, or you can even search by the different security user groups, which I'm going to elaborate on in just a few minutes. But this is where you create the login and password. Now, the new button in here is the green circle with the white plus in the middle. When you click on it, it opens up a form. Very small form. There's 7 fields to populate here. Pretty easy. The most important, though, is linking the contact, in this case, Joe Broker, to our login and password. Excuse me. As you guys know, the system captures who creates the record and when it was created. It captures who revised it last and when it was revised last and who revised it last. It captures that information. If you go to the change log, it captures information there as well. Okay? It knows who the person is that revised it, or who the person is that created it, or edited the data. It knows who that is based on the contact record that is attached to the login and password that you're using. Okay? So it's real important. If I hit the little magnifying glass, I'm going to search, whoops. Dang it. Excuse me, sorry guys. There's my guy, Joe Broker, right there. That's the one that I want. Puts his name in. Now you're going to give whatever login name and password you want. Let me point this out. It is not case sensitive. Letters, numbers, symbols, whatever you would like, you can put in there. I will tell you that there is some new functionality that's going to be released, should be before the end of the year, that if you forgot your password, you're going to be able to press a link and it will email you the ability to change your, to reset your password. It'll email that to you. So you'll have the opportunity, and I believe it's 2 hours. When you get the link, you have 2 hours to use it. After 2 hours, it expires. You have to press it again. If you can't change it within that 2 hour period, you would press it again. But the idea is, if you forget your password, you'll be able to have it emailed to you. If the user pushes the button to have it emailed to them and they do not have an email address in their contact record, guess what? It's not getting emailed to them. Which is why it's so important that they have an email address attached to their contact for many reasons, but that's just one of them. Okay? But in any case, I put in my login name, I put in my password, I verified it, I'm going to choose what level. There are 3 levels. The level that you will choose 9.5 out of 10 times is local user. If you give somebody network administrative rights, You're giving them the ability to see and do everything in the system. Anything they cannot see or do, they can give themselves the rights to see or do. You cannot make a record private from a network administrator. Okay, and there are certain rights that a network administrator has that only they have, like editing pull downs and customizing forms and doing a couple editing the categories. Those are some of the things that only a network administrator has the ability to do. Okay, my recommendation is that you have 2 in your office, and the only reason I say 2 is because if you're one and you're on vacation, someone else needs to go in and edit a pull down while you're away, they'll have the ability to do that. But I've gone into some systems and, you know, there's 5 or 10 administrators in the system. I don't recommend that. That's not good practice, because that means those 9 or 10 people have the ability to see everything and nothing can be kept private from them. And it's just, in my opinion, just too many cooks in the kitchen. So in any case, you have your network administrators, you have your local user, which is going to be pretty much everybody in your office, and then you have your client user if you want to let outside people in. I'm going to choose local user, I'm going to choose my time zone and hit submit. Now, let's find the login that we just created. And if you notice, I'm back to my list of logins. I'm refining my search. I'm just going to search for all the logins that Joe is attached to. And here's Joe Broker right here. This is our guy. Okay, and you can see when I created it right there. Now, the analogy I like to use for this is as follows. We created a login and password for Joe Broker. It would be the same thing as giving Joe Broker the keys to your house and saying, you can open the front door, take a step in, but you can't go anywhere else other than that first step. You can't go in any of the rooms. You can't go in the backyard or the garage or the kitchen. You can't go anywhere other than take one step in and sit there and kind of look around. That's all you can do. If you want to give that person access to the different rooms of your house, give them access to not just go into the room, but rearrange the furniture, paint the walls, do all of that stuff that you would do, you're going to put your mouse under the little blue arrow and choose user groups. These make the comparison that each of these is a different bedroom of the house. Do you want them to just be able to create new? Or do you want them to be able to edit all existing records? Contacts. Do I want them to be able to use the dedupe tool? Yes or no? Do I want them to have the investment profile? Yes or no? Do I want them to be able to use the update selected tool? A lot of people, for example, for agents, just have that. They just want their agents to be able to create new records. Any record that somebody creates, that somebody will always have the ability to edit it. Okay? But if I give somebody admin rights, that's saying I want them to be able to edit or modify all the contacts in the system. And if there's activities that are on that contact that are private, they're not private to a contact administrator. That administrator will be able to see it. So you have to determine what rights you want that person to have. If you notice, when I put my mouse over any of these user groups, it brings up a tooltip. Do you see how it's bringing up the text? It tells you what that user group can do. Now, you're going to go through and you're going to assign the appropriate user groups to your new person. The one that you have to give them is this right here. There are quite a few things in the system, and new records especially. If a record is created that's public, the internal user group, this user group is added to the permissions of that record. This internal user group is added to the permissions of all of the widgets. This internal user group is added to the permissions of every different type of record that's created in the system that is made public. When you make a record private, it just doesn't include this user group. But the idea is, if I don't do anything now, I'm going to come here and actually, let's do this. Do you notice I logged in as Joe Broker? Do you see my dashboard? Do you see the menu up here? I really don't have anything. And I've had people email me and say, I created a login, but there are no widgets. Their dashboard looks completely different than mine or the other agents in the office. It's because you haven't added the different user groups. So I'm going back to, I'm in Chrome now, logged in as myself as an administrator. I'm going to give this internal. I'm going to hit finish. Now, if I go back to Internet Explorer where I'm logged in as Joe Broker and I refresh this, see now how I have widgets, how I have a couple menu items, just by virtue of giving that internal user group. Okay? So, what you're going to want to do then is go through the different user groups and assign the appropriate levels of what you want people to have. Now, one of the things that I will kind of mention to you, or that I suggest, and some of you have heard me say this before, and if you don't have this document, I'm happy to send it out to you, but this spreadsheet is one that we put together that has different common roles that you would find within a commercial real estate company. Some of these are not relevant to your office. Others are relevant, but you may say, but we don't call it that. We call it something different. Regardless of what the nomenclature is there, I would recommend that you guys take a look at this. And if there are certain roles that are not relevant for your office, get rid of them. Either delete it or hide it, get rid of the column. Rename these so it matches what you call those people within your office. Then the idea is each of these is a different user group. And here's the definition. And we put a little Y for yes of which user groups we recommend for each of these different roles. Now, some of these you're going to look at and say, yep, that's right on track with what I want them to be able to do. And others you're going to say, no, I don't want them to be able to do that, or they do need to be able to do that. The thought that I have is, go in for the different roles, go down the list and say, should an agent be able to do this? Yes or no. Should an agent be able to do this? Yes or no. Make a mark, whatever mark you want, that indicates either yes, I want them to have it, or no, I don't want them to have it. Use this as your guide. A lot of you have not updated your logins or passwords in many years. And looking at some of the names of the people participating, you know, not to pick on anyone, but Cindy, my guess is there are some logins in your system that people have that haven't been touched in a long time, right? There are some others, you know, Victoria, there are logins in your system that haven't been touched in a long time, and Karen in your system. My guess is no one's revisited those logins for probably years. Maybe not a bad idea to do that. But one of the things that I also recommend doing that I think you will find might make your life easier is this. And try and follow me here because this is somewhat conceptual. Create a fictitious contact record in the system for each of the different kinds of roles that you've identified within your company. Okay? So you'll have your agent, you'll have your admin, you'll have your marketing, you'll have research, whatever different roles of people. Create a fictitious contact for each of them. make that contact internal. Go in and create a login and a password for that fictitious person. And name it something that's easy for you to identify. Agent contact, admin contact, marketing contact, whatever you want to use. Something easy for you to identify. Create a login and password for that contact, that fictitious contact. Go in and assign all of the appropriate user groups for that fictitious contact. Along with that, you're going to go in and add the different location to your fictitious contact. Right? Here's in this system, this demo system, these are all the different locations. Most of you are going to have one. Karen, in your case, you'll have a couple. But most of your offices where you have one office, you're going to have one location. Assign a location. Okay? Go in to your fictitious contact and assign the appropriate business lines. These are the business lines. Currently, you have the ability to edit these, and so many of you have different, we put some default values in there, but a lot of you have different ones. Okay? So my recommendation is go into your fictitious contact, add the different business lines, add the different locations, add the different user groups. Then you have that set up. Log in as that fictitious person. In this case, let's say our broker. Log in as the broker and customize the dashboards. Go in and set up their dashboard the way you think the agent will want it. I know a lot of you, your agents don't log into the system. But I would set this up. I would log in and have things like your broker's statistics, your broker's commissions that they've earned, your broker's open balances. Without them having to push any buttons at all, they can see that information. They will have visibility into their commission information. You can go and add things like recently added availabilities, recently added comps, right? Go in, add these widgets to your fictitious contact. So now your Joe broker has the appropriate user security added this fictitious person. They have the business lines, they have the locations, they have their widgets set up. And don't just customize the dashboard widget. Go into the different types of records. I know this seems like a lot of work, but you're really just paying it forward, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But go in and customize all the different widgets. And when I say for like this is a lease comp, for an example, an office lease comp. Add things like notes and files. That's a really good widget that should be on there. So any documentation, when they open the record, it hits them right in the face. Boom, there's a flyer, there's a brochure, whatever, there's a lease, whatever it is. Customize the dashboards. The reason for doing this is simple. When you go back to your site, now you set up your fictitious person, now you have a new agent that comes on board, right? Bill Smith joins your firm, they're an agent. You're going to go, hover over admin, click on logins, find the fictitious login that you created. And I'll use Joe Broker as our example. This is our fictitious one. This has all the widgets set up. This has the user groups, right? The security. This has the business lines and locations. Find your fictitious one, put your mouse on or near the arrow, and copy it. You're going to want to change who your new agent is. Remember, you've already created a contact record in the system for them. So select them, give them whatever login name, password, but then look, copy the user groups. That copies all the security from the one that you copied. So from your fictitious one that you know has all the right security, you're copying all that security. Copy the locations. One less thing you have to do. Copy the business lines. Another thing you don't have to do. Copy the dashboards. Another thing you don't have to do. So now you're creating your new contact record or your new login and password. You've copied your fictitious one. And all of that stuff is already set up for you. So all you're doing is just copying it. That way you know all of your agents, for example, are set up with the same level of security. That way you know that all of their dashboards, they're set up with the dashboards the way you think they're going to want them. They can always change the dashboards, right? They can change that information, but at the same time, you don't have to go through brain damage and figure out, okay, does this new broker need to be able to create new contacts? Do they need to be able to do this? Do they need to be able to do that? You're not going to need to worry about that because you already set it up on your fictitious record. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody, and that's not, I realize it's extra work. I do realize that, but at the same time, you're kind of paying it forward. If you do that all up front, it should be easier when you're setting up new people and you know that everybody is set up consistently with the right level of security. When I mentioned earlier that there were some of you that probably haven't revisited your logins, I'd recommend doing that. Go through and just, in my opinion, depending on how many people you have, and maybe start with just teams of people, especially people that you know aren't using them, who aren't logging in. Create your fictitious contacts, set up all the security, then delete out some of those logins. Like I said, especially maybe start with the ones for the agents that you know aren't using the system. Delete their logins and passwords. Then create a new one using the method I just mentioned. Copy your fictitious one. Make sure they have all the, the security is set up and it's all set up the way you want it. And I don't think it's that out of the ordinary or far-fetched to tell them, we're auditing our login, so temporarily you're not going to be able to get into the system. Most companies, or a lot of companies, force you to change your passwords for different things. We're not forcing you to do that at all. However, not a bad idea to audit, make sure that people have the security that you want them to have and that they're not seeing stuff that they're not supposed to see, or they are seeing the stuff that they are supposed to see. So anyways, that's my thought on the logins, creating logins, is create the fictitious ones and then copy them. And that way you know everyone's on an even playing field, at least to start with. Okay? And I'm happy to send this. If you guys want this spreadsheet, I'm happy to send it to any or all of you if you want it. So just kind of keep that in mind that we do have this available if you want it. Okay? All right, so let's talk about, I'm going to just leave this page. So we talked about logins and passwords, creating logins, and the locations and business lines. I did want to point out, because this comes up a lot. If you go to create a new closed deal, for example, or you create a new project in the system, I'm getting emails from some of you saying, I'm going to the business line pull down, but there's no choices for me to choose from. There's nothing in there. Or I only see industrial and I need to enter in an office deal or an investment deal or whatever the different business lines that you have. Okay? I would, when you see that this is blank or you see it doesn't have the values in it that you want, the first thing that I would do is check that user's login and contact record, because this pull down and this pull down, they will display the values that are entered in the user's individual contact record. So your contact record, if you're logged in, it will show the business lines that are entered in your record. If an agent logs in, they're going to show the business lines that are attached to their record. Same thing with your admins and everybody else. So the first thing that I would do is go into that user's contact record and make sure that they have locations and business lines added. Okay, because here's what ends up happening. Here, They'll go in and they'll say, okay, this is a lease, and they'll go to the business line. There's nothing. They'll go to the pull down. There's nothing there, so they leave it blank, and then they go to the bottom and they say continue. And they get a message that says business line is required and office location is required. So you go back here and you go to your pull down and you go, but there's nothing for me to choose from. So you get frustrated and you go down to the bottom and you hit continue again and you get the message, and yet there's nothing for you to choose from. And your frustration just keeps getting more and more and more because it's telling you it's required, but there's nothing to choose. It's because the user that is closing the deal doesn't have any business lines in their contact record. They don't have any locations in their contact record. Or if they want to choose one that's not there, you need to make sure to add it. Once you do, then this will be populated for them. And I'm mentioning this because it happens all the time. I get emails somewhat regularly about this exact issue that people have. So that's how you resolve that. Go into the user's contact record and make sure that they have all the appropriate business lines and locations. Okay. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions? No? Hopefully it's pretty straightforward. I know for a lot of you on the call, this is not new information. There's only a couple of you that seem to be newer users. So I just wanted to make sure, though, everybody knew that, because that is something that is important and that comes up regularly. So just to recap, someone new comes on board, you're going to create their contact record. You're going to make sure that it's internal. You're going to create a login and password for them, whether you just create it from scratch or you copy somebody else's, and whether you copy another agent, for example, or you copy a fictitious one that you create, that's up to you to decide. But create their login and password. When you create the login, after you create it, you're going to go and you're going to assign the appropriate security user groups. You're going to go in and assign their location. You're going to go in and assign the appropriate business lines. Right? Make sure that you have the bio entered on their record. And if you want it to go up on the web right away, you'll hit the Publish to Corporate button. Oh, whoops. Right there. And that pushes it up to the website. Okay? So that's something that if you follow that flow, I don't think you'll have any difficulty whatsoever with new people not seeing widgets, not having the business line or locations populated, that sort of thing. So again, I would follow those steps, and I would highly recommend that you guys at least take a look at your logins and passwords and audit them. And one other thing I wanted to mention, I'm going to go back to our demo site, hover over admin and click on the word login. When somebody leaves your company, I would say, well, when someone leaves your company, typically there's things that are done. You know, there's, I don't know if you guys do exit interviews or, you know, you have someone turn their keys in or whatever, you know, whatever the case is. When somebody leaves your company, the first thing that I would do is go in and delete their login and password. Okay? Just delete it. And so if I come in here and here's Joe Broker, I just delete his. Are you sure you want to delete? Yes. Now, his login and password are gone. Going back to that analogy I was using, it's the same thing as taking the keys away from a roommate or changing the locks on your house. That person, your roommate, who no longer is your roommate, they can no longer get into the house. But all their furniture is still there. All their food is still in the refrigerator. All their clothes are still hanging in the closet. Is all you did was took away their access. Delete the login and password. Any work that that person did, all their closed deals, everything is none of that goes away because you delete their login and password. Is all you're doing is taking the keys away from them, saying you can't get in anymore. All your stuff is still there, and we'll get it to you, but you yourself cannot go in and get it. If you get wind that someone's leaving and maybe they're not so happy in the way they're leaving, I would delete their login and password before they leave. Is what you don't want to end up happening is, depending on the security rights that that person has, you don't want them, when they leave, to leave with all of your data with them. If you give them the ability to export to Excel, they can export different lists, 10,000 records at a time. So if I'm an agent and I'm maybe a little bit on the shady side or a little unscrupulous and I leave the company not such good terms, I may want to take all of the comps with me. I may want to take all the lease expirations or all of the contacts. If they have the right to export it, and you give them that right if you want them to have it, to export to Excel, not too difficult because they can take 10,000 records at a time. Now they go and they start their own firm competing with you guys. That's not something you want to happen. So again, I'll get off my soapbox, but I just wanted to mention, if you get wind that someone's leaving or someone leaves, I would delete their login and password. I cannot tell you how many systems I go into. We pull up a list of logins, and the person I'm working with says, wow, they haven't been here in years. They haven't been here. They're not here anymore. Well, if that's the case, why do they still, that's like letting your roommate keep the keys to your house. They don't live there anymore, but years later they still have the key. They're not allowed to come and go when they want. Same thing, if they're not part of your office, they shouldn't be allowed to get into the system. So anyways, I'll get off that. So hopefully everybody understands that. There are no questions about that. One of the other things I wanted to mention, I kind of added it to this session, to the agenda, was the I want to pull down. And it's kind of shifting gears completely from what we were just talking about. However, at the top of almost every list in this system, whether you're looking at a list of contacts or a list of properties or availabilities or comps or closed deals or tasks, whatever it is, almost every single list in this system, at the top of the list is an I want to pull down. Depending on the type of list that you are looking at, it's going to dictate what your choices are. For example, I'm going to open up this properties. So I have a properties list. And did you guys see what I just did there? This is just a complete side note. But if you put your mouse on any of these menu items, when you if I were to click, I have a contacts list up. But if I were to go in and click on comps, it's going to take me off of my contacts list and opens up a comp search form. But if I want, look, I can do a right click on the link and just open it in a new tab. So now I've got my comps right here, for example, and my contacts. So now essentially I have two sessions going at the same time. Here's comps and here's contacts. The reason I wanted to pull that up was this. If you just make a mental note of the I want to pull down on the contacts, there are things like email the selected records. That gives you the ability to email 50 at a time. Add the selected records to a group. Add a relationship to the selected records. Okay, that's in a contact. Look at my list of comps. I have a lot of the same ones, but I don't have email the selected records. I don't have add the selected records to a group or add a relationship to the selected records, right? You don't email a comp, you email a person. You don't add a comp to a relationship to a comp, you add a relationship to a contact. So I just wanted to illustrate or point out that depending on the list that you're looking at is going to dictate what your choices are. A lot of them are going to be the same. But there are things here that if you guys aren't using them, there are things here that I think will make your life easier, like update the selected records, or add or remove permissions from the selected records. If we're looking at our list of contacts, right here, you have a choice to deduplicate the selected records. You have the ability to update the selected records, so update a bunch of them all at the same time. And you can do this on comps as well, and properties, and closed deals, and projects, where you can update a whole list of records all at once. So if I select this whole page, I want to update the selected records. These are all the fields that I can update all at one time. And I can do as many as I want. So put in the company name, and then choose something else. You know, well, you're not going to change the first name on a bunch of records all at the same time, but maybe contact type, or whatever the choices. There's a lot of choices here. Whatever you need to edit, you can change all at this. Here's publish to web. You want to list a bunch of records, publish to web all at the same time. You can do it. So you have that update selected tool. There's also a deduplicate the selected records. That gets rid of duplicates. But let me show you this. I'm going to go back to my logins, and I could have loaded a list separate, but here's my list of logins. I'm just going to go to this one right here and choose the user groups. Again, user groups are the different security levels. I just want to point something out. From the I want to pull down, that update selected, look, it's permissions. You give a specific user the rights to use that tool. Here it is for contacts. This is for the dedupe tool under the I want to pull down. This is the update the selected records from the I want to pull down. I'm just trying to illustrate the fact that you give the different permissions that you want a specific user to have. I will tell you, most of our clients don't let their agents have the update selected tool. They don't let their agents have the dedupe tool. Mainly because as useful as those are to clean up data, if you don't do it right, you can really mess your data up pretty good. So keep that in mind when you're issuing the security rights. Keep that in mind that you you determine, do I want them to be able to update all these records or use the different tools that are built into the I want to pull down. Okay, and just going back a side note, I was talking about exporting some of leisure company, taking records 10,000 at a time. Look, again, with the security user groups, you decide, do I want this specific user to be able to export comps? Do I want them to export lease expirations or contacts, whatever it is? When you select this, you're giving this particular user the ability to pull out these types of records, 10,000 in a pop. Now, I will show you this or point this out just as long as I'm talking about that. I realize I kind of jumped around here, but I think it's worthwhile for me to show you. I'm going to add widgets. And I know it's under the category, rather than go in alphabetical order and find it, I know that it's in the category of admin. System usage reports. There's a few reports here, but the two that you will ever use here are the user statistics, but then here's an export log. Some of you have asked for this for a long time. This lets you do a search for a specific date range. If you want to choose, a specific person, you can, but the idea is this is going to tell you who's exporting data out of your system, how many records they're exporting, and when they did it. So the idea is if you run this periodically, and something like 100, 200, something, that to me wouldn't necessarily set off red flags. However, if you see that, here's contact Excel, you can see the Excel or the exports. It also tells you who's running reports and how many records were on those reports and the different types of reports that they're running. But the idea is more specifically for the exports, if if you see that someone's exporting out of Excel thousands of records, that maybe to me would set off a red flag, and I'm going to go talk to that person and find out what they're doing with that information. Because mostly someone doesn't need 5,000 comps all at once. They're never going to present those to one of their clients. And if they're saying, well, I want it just so I can look through them in the system. So anyways, I just wanted to point out that you do have the ability to decide who can export and who can't. And when they do, you can then run a report and show or see who is exporting the data, who is running reports, that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to close this, close our Joe Broker, and now we're back to our site. So I just wanted you all to see that I want to pull down, because there are a lot of users that when I show them the update selected tool, even seasoned users, people who have been using the system for a while, they'll say, I had no idea it was there. Okay, the dedupe tool is another one. If you come across duplicates and contacts, use that dedupe tool, clean them up. Obviously, the better your data is, the more usability or more adoption you're going to get from your agents and your users. Okay, so are there any questions about any of that? Okay. There were a couple other things on the agenda that I wanted to talk about, saved searches and saved sets. I do think the saved searches, more specifically than the saved sets, the saved searches is something that all of you should have set up for your specific agents. Now, I always recommend, especially with newer clients, or actually with anybody, especially for Lee and Associates, for you guys, is to set up a saved search. When you set up a saved search, the saved search saves the search criteria. It does not save the results. It's all you're doing is saving that criteria. Okay? But is what I recommend doing is finding, here, you guys don't need to find it. Let me just really quickly find an agent. Okay, Scott Huber, right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a brand new search for availabilities. I'm not going to search by property type. I'm not going to search by any of this other than available, which is the default. Go down to contacts, and I want to search by contacts. I want to search by listing broker.
Keith?
Yes.
I'm a remedial learner, so you have to go kind of slow for me. And I'm an agent, and I've just added to the mix of professionals here. This is Cindy, Keith. Becky just came in. I wanted her to see this portion. I wanted to make sure she didn't miss anything. Thank you. She just walked in.
Okay. And you're an agent?
Yes, sir.
Cindy, does she have any listings in the system yet or no?
Oh, yeah. She's been here a while. I just invited the agents that wanted to attend this to come in after the login session, so that that wouldn't apply to them.
So, I'm sorry. What was your name? Not Cindy. Obviously, I know your name. What was
Becky?
Becky.
Becky Thompson. Yeah.
Is it T-H-O-M?
T-S-O-N. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So look what we're going to do here, Becky. And remember, I'm logged in as myself. So for those of you that are logged in as yourself, you can do this. Hang tight one sec for me, please. Sorry about that. I only reserved the room for an hour, and someone wanted it, but I kicked him out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to availabilities, because I want to search for availabilities, right? I want to search the listings. And the criteria that I want to search from is by listing broker. So these are all the different search fields that I could search from. And if you notice, there's a bunch of them that are closed or collapsed by default. I'm just going to expand all, so everything. So now I can search listings by all of this information that I have here. The only one that I want to do is listing broker. So Becky, here you are, right? I did my search. This is you, so I'm going to hit the word select. Now, I'm just going to go to the bottom and hit search. This now brings up your listings. Any listing that your name is attached to is a listing broker. It doesn't have to be in the number 1 spot. If you're a listing broker on it, it pulls it up. So is 12 sound about right, Becky?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So here's my listings, right? So now, Becky, this is you. These are your listings. Look what I'm going to do. From I want to, I'm going to save this search.
Okay. Showing how to save searches now.
Now it wants a name. So is what I'm going to name it. And Becky, you don't need to do what I'm doing here. Just make a mental note of it, or you watch a video, because I'm going to add this for you. So look, I'm going to hit save now. I named it My Listings. You can name it whatever you want, but I named it My Listings, and I'm going to hit save. Now, we're logged in as me. So they're not really my listings, Becky. They're your listings. But watch what I'm going to do. Here's my saved searches right here. This is my widget. I'm going to move this up to the top. Okay? Now look, see here it says My Listings. When you click on it, it is doing a brand new search of the database. So Becky, as you get new availabilities, this list is going to change. As you sell buildings or lease spaces, this list is going to change. It's all we did is said, we saved the criteria, show me all the listings that your name is attached to as a listing broker. So here's the thing. Now that this is,
right?
What's that?
I'm sorry, I'm so remedial. Go ahead, Kate.
Okay. The point about doing this is by having this set up, you don't have to re-enter the criteria in. And Becky, in your case, it's in your best interest, and all the other agents in your office, and all of your offices, that they have a very quick and easy way that they can just press on and pull up a list of all of their listings. Because this is what's powering the Lee & Associates website. So it's in their best interest to periodically take a look at this and say, well, 12, I should have 15. Where are the other 3? Or this is the wrong square footage. This should be X amount. What information is here is going up on the website. Okay? So make it as easy as possible for your agents just to press one button and pull up their listings. But
hey, I'm with you, Keith. One quick question, okay?
Yep. Yep. Sorry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm going to go to...
Don't hold the button down.
Okay, I'm going to go to availabilities, correct?
Yep.
I'm going to go to what?
Contacts. You want to search for availabilities by contacts.
So I go to availability, then contact, and then I put my name, which is in there. It'll insert.
Under listing broker.
Where the heck is it? Oh, well, I have to go all the way down to Thompson. Okay, and then I'm going to search. There we go. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Now, for those of you that aren't Becky, that are not agents, look what I'm going to do. Because, Becky, if you set this up for yourself, it's going to go on your dashboard, just like I set this up and it's on my dashboard. But these are not my listings. These are your listings. And it's what I'm recommending, or I'm suggesting, that those of you that are OMs, those of you that are admins, or that you're not agents, is set this up for your agents. Create the saved search. Then is what you can do right from the widget. I'm just going to hit View All. Look, here's my listings right here. This is it. I'm going to put my mouse on or near the little arrow, and I'm going to choose alter the permissions. And look what I'm going to do. If you look at the permissions, look who has the rights to see this. Network administrators and the creator, myself. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an individual user as having the rights to see it as well. Becky, I'm adding you.
Thanks.
And I hit add. So now, under the permissions of this saved search, I can see them, Becky, you can see it, and network administrators can see it. I'm going to take my name off here because they're not mine. I don't care about seeing it. And I'm going to hit finish. Becky, if you log into the system and go to your saved searches widget, that's going to be there now. Now, I still see it because I'm a network administrator. As a network administrator, I see all of them. Again, is what I'm trying to illustrate or point out, guys, is go in, do a search of your listings for each of your agents individually. Then just go into the permissions of that search and put it on their dashboard widget. And if you're setting up the widgets for them, make sure that that's turned on. Make sure that they know every now and then, press that button and make sure that I didn't make any mistakes. Make sure that everything is listed. Right? That way, you're not going to get an angry agent coming to you saying, how come this isn't on the website? Or this is incorrect information on the web. It's kind of a means to an end, a means to getting it on the website. So, does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, the only other thing I had was a saved set, and a saved set is a set of results. So what we did is we saved the search. That saves the search criteria, which means this list is always going to change. Not to pick on you, Becky, but I'm going to use you as our guinea pig. As Becky gets new business, again, this list will change. As she is selling buildings or leasing spaces, this list is going to change. What you could do, though, is you could just save a set. Maybe this is a set of records that you have a client that is interested in. Maybe it's a tenant rep or corporate services type job, and you found a few possible locations for them if you're doing a tenant rep or a buyer rep. Yes?
Cindy, I think where this is going to benefit the brokers most is when they're doing comp searches, like if they always have it in there, like, you know, I'm always going to be searching this area, put in the criteria, 200,000 plus, whatever. And I think that's going to benefit more than just listings. I think it's going to, the comps is what they're going to be wanting to save.
And I agree. I do agree with you. I think that for the agents that are the ones that are doing comp searches and whatnot, I agree. I think that they're going to use that. The main thing is the same search functionality works well for any type of search that you find that you're doing or your agents are doing, the same criteria over and over again. Maybe they do it once a week, maybe do it multiple times a week. But like Cindy said, with comps, if they know they always search certain areas, certain sizes, certain different characteristics, and that is the same every time, then they should save that search. And then they don't have to re-enter it. They press one button and the search happens for them. Okay? And one of the things that, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but, and I want to be respectful of your time, and I'm already over, but really quick, one of the things that you're able to do, if you didn't know you could do this, is I just did a search for all the records on Maine. So here I'm going to select this one, and now from the I want to pull down, append another search to the selected record. So look what this does. This brings up a search form. So now I'm going to do another search. Okay? and it brought up everything with 1133 in it. But look what's at the top. This was the original record we started with. So it added the results of the second search with the results of the first search. I could select these. I want to append another search. Now I want everything on Broadway, 10 to 12,000 square feet. Okay, it didn't find anything. But the idea is you can continually combine the results of one search with the results of another search. Once you have all the records that you want, then you can run a report. Or, before you run the report, all of you should know, or if you don't, you have the ability to sort this by these different choices, all these different things. So maybe I want square feet in descending order, largest to smallest. That's fantastic to be able to do that, and that's all good and well. And now when I run the report, it maintains the order. But if this is the order, I'm going to tour these 3 records, right? These are comps, but if I were to tour these with a client, for example, just so they can see what some of the comps in the area are, maybe I'm not going to tour them in something as simple as putting in an ascending or descending order. So I'm going to select these from the I want to save/reorder the selected records. Now, do you notice there's a little arrow and an X? The arrows let me move them up 1 spot at a time or down 1 spot. The little arrow with the line above it moves it all the way to the top. The arrow with the line below it moves it all the way down to the bottom. But the other thing you could do is just drag and drop them wherever you want. Put them in whatever order you want, then run the report. We could take it even a step further. Save the set. And I want, these are office comps, whatever. Name it whatever you want. The idea then is, if I go back to my main dashboard, I have a widget that has my saved sets. Here it is, office comps. When I press it, there's my 3 records. And I could go in and I could do a comp search. Find a couple more records, or however many I want. Add selected records to a saved set. And this tells me no compatible set exists because I chose a property type that was different than the list that I was looking at before. But that's, I don't want to bog you guys down with that. But I just wanted to point out that you have the ability to continually append your saved set, to continually add records to your saved set. But it's what it won't let you do is, if you have a set of contacts, it won't let you append comps to your list of contacts. If you have a list of comps, it will not let you add availabilities to that same list. The list has to be the same. In other words, if you're looking for industrial lease comps, or not lease, industrial comps, then you need to add, you can add other industrial comps to it. You can't add a piece of land to an industrial comp set. They have to be the same types of records. And the reason for that is the lists are different that load. When you choose a property type, if I choose industrial, the list that loads is specific to industrial, the column headers, right? So if I choose retail or land, the column headers at the top are going to be different. This is pretty generic. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out if you are going to use the save set functionality. But in any case, I think that's enough information for one day, and I have people waiting outside the conference room here for me to get out. So I hope you guys found this beneficial. I will go ahead and get the recording posted on the user group site, or the, excuse me, the Lee & Associates training channel.